Suburban Kings. It's not. It's supposed to be spring here soon in Texas, or in Portland. It's
Yeah.
still cold and rainy, and I hate it.
Yeah, we get like a very short window of spring here, and it's happening right now. You got to grab onto it while it's running by. But
Spring is
yeah,
terrifying in Texas because you don't know what's. You could have softball
yep,
hail,
yep.
thunderstorms, earthquakes,
Cold front,
plagues of
frost,
locusts. Yeah, it's like
yeah,
it's
the meteor showers of magma.
it.
It all in one day or one
Yeah,
week. It
it's
happens.
ins-
Yeah,
it's insane there.
yeah.
Um, I was always curious about it because I grew up in California in the West Coast, and the weather's much more predictable here because it comes off of the Pacific Ocean, so you can see what's coming for days or weeks sometimes.
Hmm.
But in Texas, you're at the whim of what the jet stream feels like doing that hour,
Yeah,
and
and
it
you'll plan for rain, and you'll see nothing but red on the radar,
yeah.
and you're like, okay, well, we got to cancel all our plans. And then as soon as it enters your like county, it just splits and disappears, and you're like, what? How did?
Yeah.
We're supposed to be getting rain all day.
Oh, so anyway, I'm looking forward to warmer weather and being able
Yes.
to ride my bike outside a little bit more. And speaking of bikes, that's top of the list today. I want to talk about bike racing, which is an enigma to a lot of people. And then we got new music from Panchiko, who's just kind of has the coolest story like ever. And then Bon Iver's got a new album out today. Look, today, so you might not have
Yeah.
had a chance to listen to it. I've been, we got a few songs off it earlier, and then we got a guest on the second half of the show, an elite bartender from San Diego, Kevin Stewart, will be on, and we'll be asking him some questions. I want to jump right into Paris Roubaix. Have you watched some of like the Tour de France?
With you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah.
what's for a regular guy? The Tour de France is like probably it's the only bike race most people are aware of. It's
Yes.
a grand tour. They don't even most people don't know that there's actually three of those. There's one in Italy, one
Wow.
in France, and one in Spain. The one in Italy starts in a few weeks, and the one in
Okay.
Spain is in like late August, September. They're called the Grand Tours, and they're 3 week what's called a stage race, where you race a little bit of it every day. But essentially, whoever has the lowest accumulated time is the guy who wins. And everybody knows your Lance Armstrongs, and maybe your Greg LeMond. What's a regular guy's point of view on the Tour de France? Like,
Yeah. I mean, point of view is it's intense, like a lot of respect. I mean, like, man, those guys are out there just dying. And it seems like such a grueling, um, impossible feat, it's like the Iron Man or like on steroids, all the endurance and distance and elevation changes. And like you said, Tour de France is definitely the one that stands out. Also being local here in Austin, so much with the Lance Armstrong and like the
right?
yellow rubber band bracelets that made their, like their run for a little while. And unfortunately for Lance Armstrong, like his reputation kind of took a hit there at the end. But it seems like something that if you're not in it, you don't really know anything about it, or you don't have the respect that it deserves.
Yeah, it's worse than even like soccer for Americans. Like, there's plenty of Americans, at least who played soccer, maybe even just as a little kid. But, road bike racing is completely foreign to a lot of people. Like it's insane. It's just a different thing. And so, yeah, and we haven't had an American, now officially an American hasn't won it since like 1988 when Greg LeMond won it. And that's how I got introduced to bike racing. So at that time, it was just a perfect storm. I inherited a road bike, like the one behind me with those skinny tires and the curvy bars. I
Yeah.
inherited it from an older brother right around 1986 when Greg LeMond was winning Tours de France. He won 3 times. He won twice, had a year off because he got shot, and then came back and won again. And so it was on the TV, and I would wake up early in July as a kid and watch Greg LeMond on the Tour de France. Then I would hop on my bike. I had my Andy Hampton 711 bike cap,
Yeah.
and some stretchy shorts, and I would just go send it on the hills of Northern California. And that was kind of what got me into it was, I come from a skateboarding. I've always kind of been one who seeks flow state. I love to just get that thrill, so skateboarding, surfing, and bike riding, I was already doing BMX, going off jumps and stuff like that. So for me, I liked both the challenge of climbing up a hill and just kind of getting into yourself and just seeing how hard you could push. Like that was fun. And then ripping down a road on a mountain is just one of my favorite things. I was telling somebody, like, the world disappears at about 50 miles an hour on a bike when you just wind down the hill. The wind is so loud you can't hear anything else. You just float and you're completely present, because if you're not, you die. So that's kind of why, people always ask why skaters and surfers, people are always after that kind of thing. The flow state is a requirement. So that's why we like those things. I love to be in flow state, but if you're not in flow state, you get hurt. And so anyway, that's what got me into it. The bike racing, and the Tour de France was all we had in America. Later we had like the Coors, like the Tour de Pont, like in Georgia, and occasionally you catch some recaps late on ESPN, when ESPN was just getting started in the 80s and it was just this upstart thing.
And we had a VHS copy, and it makes me wonder how much exposure up until really I met you and or living in Austin with, with the guy in Austin.
The Armstrong effect.
The Armstrong. We had a VHS copy of American Flyers.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, Kevin Costner and that other 80s actor that made a good run there. What was his name? David Marshall Grant, maybe?
You're going to make me look it up on the IMDb. Keep going.
Yeah. So, like, that movie was awesome. Like, I watched that movie probably more than I should have, because, like, we had a limited run of VHS, copies in our house. But found its way in.
That's what we did back then. You had to watch movies a lot because you were limited to the tapes you had in the house.
Oh, yeah. And, like, 4 channels, TV channels. And so we watched that movie a lot, and I just have memories of like him riding. And the thing that stuck out to me about like road, like racing, was the car that would follow along. And like, he's in that race and his ears start bleeding and he's like dying, like, cause he's given so much, and that, the lady actress in that movie, like she was,
Ray Dawn Chong.
Ray Dawn Chong. Ray Dawn Chong.
Dawn. The other lead was David Marshall Grant.
That's him.
They were brothers, right? And one was kind of like had a rough go, and one was pretty successful. And they were just like, "What's life? I'm going to go back and help my brother. I think a father died or something." And they're like, "Let's give it one more chance to try and race and do something." Yeah.
So that was like my exposure, that movie over the years.
Did you see Quicksilver?
It's not. I mean, let me look it up too.
It was a year later, it's 86. That's Kevin Bacon's. Oh. It's kind of road bikey, but they're bike messengers in New York City.
Okay, yeah.
And he's a stockbroker who's like kind of similar, like the stock market crash. He's like, I'm just gonna go, like he just sees the appeal of the people doing the bike messaging, and so he gets into that. It's this whole culture, and there's races, and it's kind of in that whole theme, like Rad and North Shore, like kind of like these action sport movies around 85, 86. There was a bunch of them, and Quicksilver was another banger. So
nice. Yeah.
But I was into both of those. And Rad is still on rotation in my house. I watch that all the time. I love Crew Jones. But Paris-Roubaix. So this race is a little different. I'm going to share my screen because people got to see some photos of what Paris-Roubaix is. This race started, the first one was in 1896. Okay. And as the title describes it, it was a race from Paris, France to Roubaix, France. More specifically, they raced to a specific velodrome, which is like a track, oval track for bikes. And the feature of this race, because back in the day, they just did it because they had to, was cobblestones. They would race about, this year, I think I looked at the route, about 55 kilometers. That's 30 in American. I don't know how many school shootings that is. How many drone strikes per school shooting is 55 kilometers. But they race on these old farm roads. Some of these are like literally Roman Empire era
Wow.
cobblestone roads that go
That's an
through the
epic
farms,
picture.
right?
Man.
And it's notorious because it's early in the spring. We talked about the weather. This is northern France, so you're talking similar latitudes to the Pacific Northwest. So it's raining. You know, you're going up into northern France, and so this is a famous stretch. This is the Forest of Ehrenberg, which sounds cool. And this is the
Man.
Ehrenberg Trench, and it's these cobblestones. And on this particular one, what you don't realize is these guys are going about 35 miles an hour right here in this photo. They are flying over these chunky cobblestones, and it's just this brutal race of attrition. And oftentimes the finish looks something like this, where dudes are just covered in mud.
Oh my
And that's not
gosh.
just mud, that's like cow poop, because these are farm
Oh,
roads, you know?
bro.
Like, it's intense, and it's about between 5 and 6 hours, depending on how much the course is. And it's on Sunday, and it's just my apart from like the big grand tours, this is my favorite race of the year. And it's one, like, these are the kind of races that I think the casual viewer can understand more, because the first guy across the finish line is the guy that wins, right?
Yeah. Right.
In the Tour de France, that's not always the case. Every
Right.
day, a different guy might finish, and there's 3 or 4 different races happening. It's very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
But here, it's more like a marathon. It's one race, one day, and what that means is these guys are going all out because there is no tomorrow. They have to measure their effort much more in like a Tour de France.
Did you say how many people are in it? Like how many people race in it?
There is, oh gosh, it's probably about 120 people start. So there's, you know, like any kind of major sports league, there's the main teams. So there's 18 what's called World Tour teams. So there's 18 teams that are in every World Tour race. They're always in them. And then there's usually 4 wildcard teams. So they're like in a lower division. And I think they have like 8 guys. They're allowed 8, you know, somewhere between 6 and 9 guys, depending on the race, are allowed in the race. And I also like this as a big guy because I'm, you know, 6'6", 195 pounds. I'm bigger than any cyclist. This is, I don't know who that is. This is Wout van Aert and Matthew van der Poel. They're like some of the favorites to win this race. And they are massive by cyclist standards.
Yeah, I was going to say, he looks pretty ripped.
And they're both about, you know, 6 foot, 160 pounds. They're huge by cycling standards. So you look, you know, when you look at like, Tadej Pogacar, who won the Tour de France last year, you know, he's 5'8", you know, 130, 135 pounds. So these are big. These are the big diesel power dudes, because it's not about going uphill. It's about making power on these bricks. So it's a completely different race. It's chaotic. It's just fun, and it's one day, so it's easy to track. So Paris-Roubaix, I just wanted people to know about it. Like it's different, but bike racing is it's all over the place. It's not just the Tour de France. And it's a dream one day for me to go to this race, because these people, especially in this stretch you're seeing here in this photo in Ehrenberg, it's Friday. This race is on Sunday. People are probably already there.
Oh,
with
man.
Tents and things, holding their spot down, just to watch these guys blow by for a few seconds in the Forest of Ehrenberg. This is kind of like, you know, this is like the Yankee Stadium. This is the Augusta of cycling. One of the just the landmarks. This, you know, 3 kilometer, you know, 1.5 mile stretch of road or cobblestones, you know, that in some cases is hundreds of years old, if not older. Really cool race. Paris-Roubaix. 1010 would recommend, you know, catch a highlight. You know, I usually host a viewing party, and we eat food and just kind of leave it on in the background and pay attention to a few, you know, key things that are happening in the race. That's the nature of bike racing. It's just a moment here or a moment there that matters, and which is why it's boring. I get it. It's not for everybody, but just wanted to spread the culture that there's more out there. So
yeah, nice, man. That's awesome.
I'll send you a link you can watch. So I think it's on the Peacock. It's on the Cock.
Okay. Yeah. I actually got that. I have that. I got like some kind of deal where I paid for it for a year for like $50, and I was like, okay, I'll do
it. Yeah, Peacock and is one of those ones I don't think I've ever paid for it. Like one of my credit cards or my mobile phone company pays for it or something. But
like a bonus.
So new music. There's some new stuff out, including today, which I know you haven't had a chance to listen to much, but 2 albums I wanted to touch on. Panchiko, right? So we remember Panchiko.
Oh yeah. Let's do a quick run by in case anybody missed us talking about that prior. Like
You do the run by.
yeah. So from what I remember, there was a band that put together an album, made a run, and they had a little bit of success, but then their album, their CD, wound up in a record store.
A record. So between like 1997 and 2000, they recorded a few tracks.
So it was an actual record?
Actual record.
Okay.
Which was what makes the story so cool.
Right.
It was rotten.
It was rotten. Grimy.
Yeah.
The actual little grooves in the vinyl then must have picked up some grime and whatnot.
Yeah.
And somebody grabbed a copy of it and put it on. And from there, that how many years did you say it sat there?
So they made that record somewhere between 97 and 2000. A person who is, let's see if I have the person's name in here. They don't have their name, but they found it in 2016 at a charity shop. So like a Goodwill in Sherwood, Nottingham, England.
Whoa.
And posted on a forum because he was digging it. And the record was rotted. It just and you can listen to the rotted version. They put it on Spotify, and it's just kind of, just crusty, like some mold had built up, and it literally rots the record. So I guess that's a thing. I don't collect the records, so, I don't like to have things, but So, and it took them a while. It took them till 2020 till they actually found the band.
Yeah.
So that's 4 years. This guy discovers this record, puts it, rips it down to digital and puts it in online so some people can listen to it, and says, help me find this band. It took 4 years. And then someone, I believe like from Korea, finally thinks they find the guy on Facebook, hits him up, and it turns out it is him. So long story short, and they don't even have, and Panchiko doesn't even have access to the master recordings. They just have tapes and things. So they were able to kind of pull together what we know as the death metal EP, and put that back online around 2020, 2021, and they reformed. And so they put out an album in 2023, and they just dropped a new album last week. It's called Ginkgo, which is Ginkgo. And describe the sound that you know of Panchiko for the listeners, John, but specifically the death metal stuff. Yeah.
Well, the first time you shared that with me, it was the Rotted album. So for me, I kind of thought like, wow, this is unique because it sounded like it had like a filter on it.
Yeah.
And I was kind of lost in that, trying to listen through it. Like, okay, it was really
like a radio station that's not quite connected, back when you listen to radio.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, man, I mean, I don't know how to describe it. It's so different. It's not like you're melt your face shredding, like up front, like, when you say death metal.
No, it's totally not. That's why it's totally funny that it's called that.
It's like much softer and melodic than that. I mean, I can't even. I can't put it in like a genre. Like it's so unique in its own way. Help me out.
Wikipedia in the genres section of the entry for Panchiko calls it indie rock, noise pop, shoegaze, trip hop, neo psychedelia. When I first heard it, my first thought was, well, this is shoegaze music, which is really, just kind of melancholic, just kind of, if you just imagine someone playing music, and they're looking at their shoes on stage, because it's just like, this is really quiet. It's just kind of like, it's that, which, may or may not turn you off to want to listen to it. But it also has like this early Pink Floyd, like Ummagumma, Saucer Full of Secrets, even in the Dark Side, where it's kind of like this noise rock where there's definitely guitar and keyboard and bass and drums in there, but there's lots of just kind of noodly sounds from the synth, not really samples. And so it's kind of spacey too. And it's just kind of, it's almost haunting. Yeah. It's just, and it has great layers. And, I don't know if they could ever recreate that. So that's it really got me, really into the band. And my favorite song off of the death metal EP is a song called The Eyes of the Bod. And as a big Dune fan, like that one, it's not their biggest hit on there, but The Eyes of Vod, if I was going to have someone listen to one song to kind of get the sound of Panchiko, it would be that one. And it's just kind of got this weird, almost Hans Zimmer like weird instrumentation and haunting vocals and some reverb. And it's just got depth and layers. It's almost, even Radiohead kind of in that, more like kind of the moon shaped pool era. And so the new album is a little more guitar centric. Jinko. It sounds more like Radiohead. And it if you liked the bands that kind of came after Radiohead, the kind of that 90s Brit pop, I'm thinking like, or in that space, I'm thinking like Arctic Monkeys, Snow Patrol. What's the one big band that's like the poor man's U2?
Not Coldplay.
Coldplay, like early Coldplay.
Yeah.
Because it's not it's not big poppy.
Right.
So it's probably more approachable to the regular person. I wouldn't call the new album shoegaze. The EP definitely I would call that shoegaze. Mm-hmm. But the new one is, more just alternative rock, but mellow, kind of like In Rainbow's era, Radiohead. A little bit of electronica, but still guitar, drum, bass is at the core. And they even throw a rapper on there. A rapper named Billy Woods is on a song called Shandy in the Graveyard. And I like his lyricism. Actually, that turned me on to Billy Woods, and I've added some of his stuff to my library. I'm gonna try and spin it this week. So I love that when you throw some guests on there, and you kind of get some new stuff. So it is. They're still not big by Spotify standards. The title track Jinko only has 3 million spins. That song with Billy Woods, 1 million spins. Everything else is way down. 200,000, 120,000, 400,000, 92,000. So still early days for the album. And for Panchiko, I did find out that they were at South by 2 years ago. So, look for them to hit the US this year and maybe do some shows. That'd be cool. I'd check them out. Really
but
cool.
that'd be a good experience. And as you were talking, it like all started coming back to me. Like I was drawing a blank at first, and they're like, we did a run through with this, and I haven't gone back to it. The story was so fascinating, and the sound is so unique from that album.
Yeah.
And so, man, that's exciting because all that run of music that you just threw out there, if it fits that bill, man, that's awesome. That's exciting.
No, if you like the more, I want to say the poor man's Radiohead, that's kind of what the new album is. It's like that. And I think it's got legs. I think they're going to do well. Like get some tours. I don't think they're going to get hit singles because I don't hear any TikTok hits on there. Which is how the kids are discovering music. I'm learning from AJ. Her earworm this week was a TikTok find. And I went to the page for that artist, and sure enough, that's how she was discovered. She put something on TikTok. Boom. That's the new way to break anymore. The future for independent artists looks possible. So moving on, Bon Iver. Now you've heard some of the songs off this because they released a kind of a short version of Sable.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you were digging on that.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. I think the part of this whole album is like the break that he took from music. You can see and feel the journey that he's been on as an artist. And that comes through in this album. I think from what I've gathered, he's gone through, depression, and he was having these moments on stage where he was having these breakdowns and, getting, just the
panic attack.
Yeah. Panic attack from the bright lights and the fame and the success that was coming from his earlier stuff, but also mixed in with, a tortured artist in a way. those two things put him down a spiral, and took a break for 6 or 7 years or something. And so I've been interested to see these clips of him on, TV shows talking about that a little bit, about how it's weird for him to
Yeah.
really be himself and put it out there without that regard to all of the people's thoughts and opinions and comments that come from, he's probably read too many comments on reviews of his stuff.
Right.
But
do you think he went this direction? Because when you look at 22 a million specifically,
mm-hmm.
I mean, for better or for worse, it was a pretty big departure. And then
right.
So that was 2016, and then II in 2019. Much different than the first two albums. The self-titled and Forever Ago,
right,
were pretty simple. A lot of acoustic guitar,
yeah,
a lot of normal instrumentation, not a ton of vocal and synth and weird stuff. Then 22 Million came out, which I freaking love. It was a pivot, and I admit it was difficult to tune into it, because at first, is it too different? And maybe that had something. You think he's trying to shift back because this new album sounds more like the first two?
Yeah, but you can also pick up some of the nods to that 22 Million,
right,
where you feel some of those loops and some of that experimental stuff that he was really going after. So it feels like a mixture of the two. The Sable, or I wonder, I want to know if it's from him, if he calls it Sable or Sable. I mean, because I think I read an article that talked about.
It's not named after the car.
I think it might be
the
named
Mercury
after
Sable?
The Osable River up in Michigan.
Oh, isn't he from Minnesota? He names a lot of things after.
Yeah, but I think
places.
I think he spent some time in a cabin up in Michigan during this depression.
Okay.
I think I hope I'm not just throwing all the listeners down some weird rabbit hole that's not even true. But right. I want to say I read an article that was talking about that, and I was up in Michigan when I was reading about it, when learning about him working on the album, when I knew, like, oh wow, he's working on an album. And so whenever that Sable album came out, I was, oh man, immediately just pulled right back in. I was like, okay, this is, because he released an EP, like 3 or 4 songs or something.
Yeah, last year, a few songs.
And then so it took me right back. It's like, okay, got some new stuff. And it just immediately took me there. So like these new tracks that just hit, and he's kind of brought that. He hasn't just, he's released a couple of them like the past couple of weeks ago. So he's kind of given us the sneak peeks into some of the singles along the way. They felt a little more uplifting. You could sense some hope in the sound that he had, and like a little more easy listening, I would say. Like when I put it on, I remember my parents got oh my gosh, I wish I could remember her name. Bought an album, and they were excited to listen to it. I'm like, this sounds like old person music. Like it was kind of poppy and kind of easy listening. So I think if
when you were a kid.
Yeah. So I think if I tried to play this for my kids, they'd be like, man, you're so old, But so what I'm trying to say is, like, with these new albums that just hit, it's going to take me some listens. It didn't immediately pull me into the space that I'm familiar with him pulling me into, but hearing parts of these stories of him climbing his way through, the pain and the struggle and the depths that he was in. I'm curious, as an artist, like, it seems like he's staying true to that journey and letting that kind of guide him through and being what it is. So that's kind of my take on it as I'm listening to it and being a fan.
Right.
But
no, I think you're right on. Like I spun it this morning for breakfast. The album's coming out. Spotify knows me and reminded me as soon as I opened Spotify to turn the music on in the morning. Hey, new album released. And so I spun it, and it's good. It's good for it's good quiet morning music. I'm interested to see how it drives. When I want to listen to Bon Iver when I'm driving, I'm going for 22 a million because it's dynamic, and it really connects all together. I think The other two albums, maybe the second album, the self-titled, I'll drive to. Forever Forever Ago is a little more coffee house, quiet morning, rainy day music. And Sable Fable feels like Forever Forever Ago. And I always think it's funny on Spotify when it has disc 1 and disc 2.
Yeah.
So disc 1 is really the EP, and disc 2 is all the newer stuff. And on the wiki, on the article about it, disc 1 is called Sable and disc 2 is called Fable. Or at least that's how I'm pronouncing it.
My favorite track on all of this so far is Space Side. Yeah. It just really hit the way that got me into him in the first place. But right? I'm liking it. I'm excited because I'm a fan. But that one track, if people are looking for what to listen to, that would be my recommendation, and because it would fit what his early success was really built on, and found the foundation he was doing from the
get-go. The track with guest vocalist Danielle Haim. Yeah, If Only I Could Wait. That's the one that stuck out to me this morning. I was listening. Now, that's the one that kind of penetrated just kind of the ambience and locked me in. So I played it back to back, the album, this morning to really kind of get into it. And this is classic Bon Iver. And so it is, I think it's a winner. It's going to be on rotation over here for me. But let me introduce our guest, unless you've got some last words on Bon Iver.
No, man. It's cool that he's on this journey. I love that early guitar that he'd play with that big silver. What is that called?
Yeah. Oh man, it's like a vibrax or something like that. Yeah.
Like that Dobro. Early stuff. And then didgeridoo.
It's called a dobro. I think that's what it's called. A dobro guitar.
Yeah.
It's got the metal. It's just got a metal top. Yeah, that's called a dobro.
Yeah, and he,
remember that.
Wailed a good job, man. He wailed on that, and just that he built on it with like adding some big instruments to it and layers of piano and staying like you described, rainy day kind of coffee house music. But the cool part is he's taking us on a journey, and it's cool to see him stay with it. It's cool to see him fight through his demons, and to feel the hope and to feel this new space that he's in. So that's what has me interested. And so hopefully people give it a listen, and I'm cheering him on, man.
Dobro's the brand name that we know. It's kind of like Rollerblade or Kleenex, but the style of guitar technically is a resonator.
Okay.
So just for all people that are going to correct me in the comments.
Yeah, there you go. Oh well,
I've always known it as a dobro, but it's a resonator. But awesome. Yeah, no, I'm excited about that and digging into Panchiko. I got some new music from AJ this week on some folk music. So next week, I think we have we're going to do a music draft. AJ's going to jump on. I'll surprise everyone with what that is. But I won't, before he pops on, and I expect him to ping me in a minute. We have a guest this week. One I've been wanting to get on for a while because one, I love creative people. If you know me, you know my heart. There's two things. One, I think truly creative people are exceptionally rare. Everyone can be creative within themselves or within their space, but people who are absolutely like truly creative, wherever you put them, they're going to create and be creative. They can't help themselves. It's just an affliction they have. Justin Vernon may be one of those people, and it can be a tortured existence. Right. And he's truly creative. And I always tell people, you don't, when we say that, it's like, well, if you're going to fully realize yourself, you have to be a regular artist. You have to be a musician, or you have to be, a visual artist or something like that. But that's not the only way to express your art. And Kevin expresses his creativity in the service space as a bartender. He's been doing it for a long time. He's elite at it. And you can tell when a bartender is playing the part versus someone who is its natural form, and it's the same. That's the difference between someone who's creative or someone who's very good at rehearsing the craft of what their art is. Yeah. So I think of Drake, and I'm going to take some heat for this. I think of Drake or Taylor Swift. Okay. They are incredible craft people at and the craft they've chosen is music. Drake has chosen to play the part of a rapper, but he's not. I don't believe he's a rapper. He's just an entertainer, and he's very good at it. And he's one of the greatest entertainers of our generation. And the space he's in is to play the part of a rapper. But I don't think he's really a rapper. Taylor Swift, same thing. She's a great entertainer, one of the most legendary, award-winning, money-making entertainers of her generation. But I don't believe she's a truly creative artist. And what I would say is, if you dropped either of them into a new reality where everything that laid before them that got them to where they are didn't exist, they wouldn't necessarily end up doing I don't think they'd end up doing what they're doing right now.
That's a hot take right there, man. And
right?
I'm buying it. I'm sorry, but I loved it. That's like a great movie idea. Yeah. To lose everything that your whole world has been like, that success and just being in your own universe and at that level of success, to lose it all, to wake up one day and then not the world's not holding every door open for you.
Yeah, because they were curated from youth and kind of put into that space, and they occupied the space they were given, and that's fine. But I don't know that they would create art in any other reality, because I don't believe they're creating art. I believe they're performing at a high level. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's good stuff. They got some bangers. But a true artist, if I took someone like Kevin, or I took someone like Justin Vernon, and I dropped them in the jungle somewhere into a culture with no history of ever doing anything, not knowing that they were a musician, having never sung a note, or having never done the thing that their art is, they would end up doing, someone like a Justin Vernon would end up doing something creative. He would make art. He wouldn't be able to help himself. But I don't know that someone like a Drake or a Taylor Swift would be involved in art. They would be morphing into whatever the culture needs from them. And again, I don't see anything wrong with that, but I think that's kind of how I set a high standard for what a true artist and a truly creative person is. And it's mainly because I value them so much. We need them. We need true artists. And so, not to set Kevin up for failure when this pop on, but that's kind of where I see him, and he's expressing his art, and the cool. reality he's in right now is in the service space as a bartender. And, the mediums for his art are conversation and food and beverage and just experience. And no matter where you put Kevin, I promise you, or someone like Kevin, he's going to do creative stuff. He cannot help himself. So I think that. All right, Kevin Stewart, where in the world do we find you today?
Dude, this very second, I'm at my house in San Diego.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we got a cat. Nice.
Yeah, he's going to be coming up here the whole
That's
time.
Cool.
So.
What's his name?
Cool.
His name's Monchaz. Monchaz, like.
Monchaz, okay.
Yeah, it's a Spanish word for like stained or marked.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
He's chill.
Love it. Love it.
So yeah, San Diego.
We wanted to get you on, one, because you're a longtime friend of mine, just a beautiful human doing beautiful things, and you got that the bartender experience, and we wanted to learn the ways of navigating that.
You don't want to know.
A few episodes back, we talked about how do you approach a bar, and we kind of rated bars by like 3 levels. There's like dive bar, and there's basic bar, and there's like full on like bougie, speakeasy or whatever.
That does make sense.
So, and what drink I order based on my read of the bar and the liquor and all that stuff. So that's kind of what we talked about. But my first question for bartender Kevin is, how do I get the bartender's attention in a busy bar? I suck at that. Like I will stand there forever, like I'm invisible.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that depends on the bartender.
Right.
I try to be very attentive, but at the same time, still trying to keep my, I'm the boss. But when you're just like lining up at the rail, it's like too deep at the bar, a couple people need drinks. Usually up here, we do have an order and I do see you.
Right.
You can always have, what helps is maybe having your form of payment ready in your hand and leaning over, not waving it at me. Never wave or snap, you know what I mean? But that also helps because
I always thought that was a faux pas to be like having my 20 up in the air and like,
no, just kind of not like out, but just make it look like you were ready. Because if I see someone and they're not ready, or I'll even go up to someone and be like, "Hey, what do you need?" And they'll be like, I'll be like, "I'll be right back with you." And I'll tell them, I'll be like, "Draft list up there. I got a cocktail menu right here. Just let me know. Cans up there." And then at least point them.
Are you reading people based on just their look, their dress, kind of their posture? Like, that person's got their shit together. That person is going to be high maintenance.
Yeah. I'm going to serve him last.
Dude, you kind of have to be honest. Because like, obviously you don't want to judge a book by its cover. And you learn that so much in this industry that the worst looking people could be your favorite customer of the day. You know what I mean? But what worse is just like an objective, you know what I mean? But
you'll misjudge somebody. It happens.
Yeah, I'll definitely look at someone and be like, "Oh, this is going to be fun," or even just the way, because I introduce myself all the time. I say hi to every single person leaving or coming in, and say bye to everyone leaving. I like to try to, because if there's a line out the door, which we have the system where you kind of order in the line and then go sit down, unless you're like hanging at the bar. It's a big place. And so if I have like a line out the door and someone comes in, I at least like to say hi to everyone, because people are more willing to wait and just kind of stand there for however long it takes if you actually acknowledge them. You know what I mean? Just acknowledge the people and people will wait, kind of thing.
Right.
I like how you said that there's an order, that it made me think of, I had some experience working customer service and in that space. And, it also makes me think of like a 4-way stop, like the anxiety that I feel at a 4-way stop. Okay, wait, did you get there first? Is it my turn yet? Is it your turn? And a little bit of gas and then brake. And it's like, I don't know. And then they stick their middle finger out the window like it was
and then you get mad at people for telling you to go. Yes.
Totally.
Yeah, there is just like kind of a, like I said, I like to acknowledge people, and that has to do with the order thing too, is like, I will see who came up first and I'll notice, because some people try to be sneaky, you know what I mean? When it's like, they'll just kind of like nudge in and get in front of someone. I'm like, okay, well, he was here first. If you want to just move aside, I'm going to get this guy first. And they'll be like, well, I'm ready. And I'm like, they are too, I'm just policing, man. But I have it all up here to where which one was first. Sometimes it's not that hard, and people are usually pretty chill, to be honest with you. Right? Well, it's their brand or something.
Yeah. Kroger
anyway,
they bought
one of our thing. Yeah.
All right. So is my audio working now?
Yeah. Yeah. It was working before too.
Oh, I heard you.
Now I'm elite.
You sound,
yeah.
You sound a little more filtered now.
Yeah, like ABC Studios all of a sudden.
Well, because my headphones were on my microphone for the first part of the podcast. I didn't turn on this mic, so I've been talking into nothing for half an hour.
Did the other one work? Did the other one work?
It worked. I mean, I can't tell until it's all over.
Okay.
But let's talk. Let's back up, Kev. How'd you get into this? Like, what's the route? What's your story?
Honestly, so I was working at Vans at the time, just doing retail, which is horrible. But I got a bunch of cool shit out of it.
Yeah.
50% off.
I still have stuff from working in retail, like wetsuits and
exactly.
Working at a surf shop.
I know. Well, so I was working there, and I was like, you know what, I had like some weekends free, and my wife, Molly, works at a very neighborhood staple bar. She's been there about 15, 16 years, up the street from our house. And one of the bartenders there was getting together making a bar menu for this new place I was about to open in Bankers Hill, whatever, down the way.
Right.
This is all irrelevant to you, these neighborhoods. I'm just trying to do it up here. But
Yeah.
That's good.
and so he's like, hey, so we're gonna have music, we're gonna do this, and so on weekends we're gonna have music, so we're gonna need a door guy. And I was like, okay. They're like, you want to do it? I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do, Friday and Saturday if you need it. They're like, cool. So I go in to like meet with the owner before they were even open. I just went in to, do a little, I pretty much had the job, but he wanted to
Right.
meet me and see what I was about. And it was actually hilarious because I had like broken my foot a little before that skateboarding.
Nice.
So I walk up with a cane. This guy like kind of gives me the eye, like, so you're supposed to be my door guy and you got like a cane and you're hobbling. And I was like,
Yeah.
it's a skateboarding injury. I'll be fine. And give me like a week and I'll be
Right.
on my foot. And he's like, oh, okay. Yeah. That kind of threw me off. Anyway, so I started the door guy, started doing that. And I'd say 3 weeks, maybe probably under a month into it. He's like, hey, we've never had a bar back here before, but we're getting busier. Do you want to try to jump in the bar next week and, learn the system? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And this was all in 2015. So it's been just over 10 years there. And yeah, from being a bar back, he's just like, oh, by the way, we need, someone to do this shift, bartending. So good luck, dude.
I was hoping.
And so I
I
just
was
got
hoping
thrown into
the cane would factor in here for I'm keeping the cane for
You
suckers
know-
that don't know what time it is.
I still have the cane. Yeah, I guess the cane had nothing to do with it. I just thought it was a funny
No, that's
thing
good.
that
No,
I was
good
supposed to be the
storytelling
door
is
guy and I
detail. Yeah, it's detail.
walk in with a cane. But
Okay.
yeah,
I've
now I'm
heard the
here
term
10 years
bar
later.
back, and I have a vague understanding of what a bar back is. Tell me what that is.
So a bar back's just basically the bartender's assistant.
Okay.
They typically don't pour, but
Right.
they'll fill your ice, get you a new bottle once this one's out, fill up your mixers, garnishes, you know what I mean? Just
Squeezing
kind of like
lines.
set you up and make sure
Yeah.
that everything is ready for the bartender to just, be as efficient as possible.
That's
Right.
got to be a tough kind of dance, though.
Dude,
Like, I could see that being.
it's
like,
brutal.
It could go sideways quick, man, because you have that
Yeah.
expectation of keeping the flow. There's got to be like a
Yep.
flow state that, as
You gotta be in
Vince
sync.
mentioned.
There is, and that's the thing about like, so where I work, we don't have bar backs. He literally just created that position to get me behind the bar and get me trained and stuff. So
Right.
I was the first and last bar back there. But yeah, where I work, I do everything. If a keg blows, I got to change it. I got to get my own ice. I do all the heavy lifting and the talking and the drink making and the cleaning and the bussing.
Right.
It's kind of brutal, but for the most part, it's a pretty easy few $100 every day,
Yeah. I mean, it's social. Like
Yeah,
when I was
love that
there,
part.
a couple months ago, watching you operate, for me, it seemed so natural for you, and just knowing you, it's like that's why, this is perfect. Kevin is doing art right in front of me. And it was awesome to see that when it's natural. I was telling John earlier, like,
Yeah.
I can tell when a bartender is naturally a bartender, like it's their thing, or someone who's playing the part of a bartender, and I could tell it.
It's true. Which is funny because one of my good friends that works with us has never bartended before, but now he does with us, and he always likes to say, he's all, well, that's what you get. I'm a personality hire, He's good at that part, but sometimes I'm like, bro, come on. Yeah.
I'm a hockey player, but I'm playing golf today.
Yeah, exactly. No, the bar backing part, that sucks. This is honestly the only bar I've ever worked at. So
Right.
I don't know I know how a lot of places work just because I have, a bunch of friends in the industry and I'll go hang out at places, but this is the only one I've ever worked at. So I've never had to be like a gnarly bar back or, change. Some people, we only have 4 taps. Some people have 50 to 100
Right.
taps. So it's like pretty small operation, but pretty damn busy.
Yeah, it's not the
It's
yard
fun,
house
man.
over there.
No, yeah.
It's a perfect
fun,
little
though.
bar. It's a perfect little bar.
Yeah.
What's your bar called, just for everybody? Where
It's
is
called the Balboa Bar and Grill
Oh, cool.
in Bankers Hill, San Diego. Yeah.
Are
Voted
you
Zest
are you
Burger.
the owner there?
No. At one point I was, you know, trying to get my pocket in the place a little, but then COVID happened and I was like, we almost shut down. We pretty much announced that we were going to shut down,
it? Right.
and we got saved by expanding. But yeah, after COVID, I was like, I'm just going to be the
Yeah. With the
bartender guy.
headache of having an ownership stake.
Yeah.
Well, then
Yeah.
let's talk drink orders.
Yes.
Do you? You know, I'm gonna throw my wife under the bus because I've been for years trying to figure out what her go to drink order is, because I know I have it. I'll read the bar, and if it's a
Yeah.
dive bar, I'm gonna get a beer, or it's assuming I'm not driving and I can drink at will. Or like when I was at your place, I was driving, so I couldn't really get into it. But like about a dive bar, and I read the bartender, I'm like, I'm just going to stick with a Jack and Coke because I don't trust your game. And then, if it's a more legit bar, like a hotel bar, with pretty good liquor, I'll get a Manhattan. Sometimes I'll get a maple Manhattan, or then when it's an elite bar, I have a drink that, is chartreuse based that I love, and I go for that one. I think we talked about it.
The last word, final word.
Yeah, the final say variant, which is got rye.
Say,
yeah. That's my go-to at a nice bar. But my wife has got to have a conversation with the bartender. I don't like, it's fruity, and sometimes it's hit or miss. We haven't found like her go-to. How do you read people's drink orders?
If people are like that and they're like, well, I'm like, what do you typically drink? I'll start with that question.
Right.
And then, because I need to know something. I don't know this person.
Right.
I'm not going to assume this girl wants a margarita because it's summer and she's blonde.
Right.
Who knows? Maybe she's going to have a beer and a shot of Jaeger. You never know. So I always, if they're
or a
uncertain,
truly.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we're a White Club.
Yeah.
No, but every time someone's like that, I'll be like, what do you typically drink? And they're like, I don't know. I was like, do you want a beer or do you want liquor or a cocktail? And they're like, yeah, a cocktail. And I'm like, do you want something sweet? And there's just you just got to kind of nudge them in the right direction. I'm like, okay, well, do you want to taste it more like tequila, or you want to just do a vodka drink? And then, and then their wheels start turning. They're like, oh, that's right. I had that one. I don't know. There was this and that. I was like, I'll make something like that. I'll get you a gimlet or something. And it's just like an easy one to drink, and they love it.
You get the mat in a cup and you just pour whatever's in the
mat.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
No.
unless it's the beginning of the shift. I'm sorry, I don't have much in there. But yeah, you got to guide people, because some people, it's as if they've never walked outside their house before.
Yeah.
Some people just need their handheld, and
those people are always in the self-checkout line at the grocery store.
Yeah.
have you ever used money before?
Yeah.
Or bought something?
It's the same with like talking on the phone with people, because we have, we take phone orders for our food, which is like a huge part of our business. And sometimes I'm just like, okay, I spoke. It is your turn. Have you talked on the phone before, man? But
there's generational thing there happening. Is there a drink when someone orders it? Like, I know you're disciplined, not rolling your eyes.
That you like, yeah.
But inside,
mentally rolling my eyes.
What are those drinks? I want to avoid those.
So, really, anything you have to muddle.
Okay.
Which we streamlined one of our. We have this jalapeno margarita.
Right.
And it's great. It's got the jalapeno and the pineapple juice, and it's delicious. But we used to muddle it, but we streamlined that, and now we just infuse the tequila with the jalapeno. So it's like, okay, no more muddling. Even that's kind of a pain in the ass drink, because you got to rim it, then there's a bunch of different steps, then shake it. But it's really just the muddling and making Sometimes it's just pouring a shot because I don't want to help anyone because I want to go home.
So
But you won't see it
like
on my
old
face.
like a traditional old fashioned, you're muddling, right? And then you're muddling with
Yeah.
what's that minty kind of thing in the Tom Collins? What's that guy?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you also don't get me wrong. I do make drinks for a living, but I am no mixologist. I know
Right.
a lot of cocktails,
Yeah.
but I'm not a fancy bartender.
No.
So, um,
You're the everyman, but you're also not the dive bar. I'll just open you a tall boy of
no,
PBR. You know, yeah,
I love when that happens. It's very
yeah,
easy, but no, I can make cocktails,
right.
but there's just so many. There's also drinks. I'll tell someone, I'm like, I'm not sure how to make that. I've heard of it. If you want, I could Google it. If not, you can get something else if you'd like. I'm sorry. And they're
Right.
like, oh, no problem.
Right.
10 out of 10 times they're like, oh, it's fine.
Right.
But pretty much in my bar, any sort of drink that you have to muddle or rim, because sometimes people will get the jalapeno margarita, but they'll want it with mezcal, and we don't have that infused. So then I still have to muddle it. And, what are they called again? Bloody Marys. Those are pretty annoying if you're not set up for it because we're
who's
not
drinking
really
those
that
at
place.
night?
I mean,
I'm kicking that guy out.
yeah, pretty much.
This
I
isn't
people
brunch,
do it.
bro.
It's the garnish though on a Bloody
Yeah.
Mary that gets exciting. Like I've seen some
Exactly.
wild stuff.
They put whole ass burgers
Bacon,
on that.
yeah,
It's
celery,
crazy.
Pizza,
But
chicken
the
wing.
worst thing about like a Bloody Mary, something like that, is it is obviously
The V8.
a Bloody Mary. You know what I mean? And so when people see it, they're like, "Oh shit, I didn't know they had those." And then everyone else comes up and starts ordering them. So it's that domino effect. That's pretty cool.
Okay, tell me, is there really a difference between mezcal and tequila, or is it just pretentiousness?
I mean, you've tasted them both, right?
I don't drink either straight up. So when I've had a
I
few
don't.
drinks, it's the same to me.
So there is a difference.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly. You know who does know
Yeah.
everything there is to know about tequila and mezcal is DJ.
Ah.
He's the fancy bartender.
Yeah, he wears the waistcoat and the roll
his old
sleeve.
cuffs.
Yeah. He's like old school. Yeah.
But yeah, he knows all that. But I know it's also a geographical, like I'm pretty sure Oaxaca is where, like if you say Oaxacan old fashioned, that pretty much means, pardon me, a mezcal old fashioned.
Okay.
And it's just I think it's the way it's stored or aged or something.
It's the same
smoky.
plant, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I really don't know.
So
Google would know. Google and DJ know.
So Kevin, what I'm curious about is, like Vince was sharing the heart of what the conversation is with all this about staying connected to culture and art, and just being dudes in the middle of it all and the struggles of trying to stay connected to the things that just really give us a lot of life. Like for you with where you're at with this, being the artist that you are, where do you find your expression of that within this environment of the bar that you find yourself in, whether it be like, do you ever have moments when you're just like crafting a drink and you find yourself just putting it together, like in sort of like a zone or like from this place?
Or even a conversation that just gets, you're just like, I'm in flow right now.
I mean, yeah. Sometimes, honestly, it's like working with, like, everyone who works there is my friend, you know what I mean? For the most part. And when I work with one of my best friends, that's kind of, it's almost like, we don't even have to like talk, and it's just this flow we have going on. Like someone will start ordering with me and my boys behind me already putting it in and then already getting the drinks started. And then it's just like this, there is like this beautiful little
flow state.
Yeah, it's just, I look and I'm like, wow, 3 hours went by and this tip jar is just full now and I don't even remember. I swear I just clocked in, sort of thing. And it is kind of like this flow state. And I love talking to people. That's like kind of my thing when I'm at the bar. Like I love meeting new people or trying to get this grumpy guy to smile, you know what I mean? Or like trying to get this loud lady to be quiet, but still have fun with me. You know what I mean? It's just like the whole flow of like the people going in and out, and especially being in a town like San Diego, and we're kind of right by the airport. There's just so many people from all over, and it's fascinating.
Or help a Tinder date that's nosediving.
Oh yeah,
give me a Tinder date rough, story.
Okay, well, actually, this wasn't that long ago. There was this guy. He's like, oh, I'm waiting for someone, and I'm like, okay, well, whenever you're ready, just come on up here. I was just like clearing a plate or doing something, and I was like, hey, if you want, and he's like, no, I know, I got to order up there. I'm waiting for someone, and I was like, all right, kind of gave him that. He's like, yeah, you know, kind of an awkward guy, and I was like, hey, that's cool. And then there was like 3 people in the bar. It was kind of right when I opened.
Right.
And then I see this girl walk in and she kind of looks lost. And I was like, this is definitely her.
Right.
Anyway, so the girl walks
at a first glance. Did they look compatible? Were they like in the same league visually?
No. I don't even know if they were playing the same sport. But the dude looked, he was a very sweet dude.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but he looked like very timid and he looked uncomfortable to even be at that place. I think he probably thought it was like a restaurant, but then he saw like the bar and there was just like corn playing on the jukebox. And like this girl walks in and she seems like, you know, pretty cool. She has a couple like tattoos and she walks in like pretty confident. She's like, hey, how you doing? I was like, cool. Whenever you're ready, just come up. And then she's all, yeah, I'm meeting someone here. And I was like, cool. That's what I hear. And she walks right past this guy. And so I was like, maybe she doesn't know what he looks like, or maybe he lied. I don't know.
Or somebody lied, yeah.
Yeah, someone lied. So she walks right past, there's like 2 steps that go down to this like lower area with more tables and a pool table and like TVs. And so she walks down there and you can't write this shit. Like there's a wall between them and she's sitting at the same side at the same table, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're waiting like for each other.
Yeah,
there is an opening, but
it's like being at a urinal.
It's like right here. It's like right like right next to each other. And I was like, this is hilarious. I'm gonna go see if I can help anyone out in this situation. Right. So I go up to him first, and I was like, do you know what this person's name is? And then he said like, oh, Sarah. I don't know, Sarah or something. And I was like, okay. And I go like this. I'm like, Sarah? And she's all, oh, no, I'm not Sarah. And I was like, oh, I was trying so hard to make this happen right now.
Oh,
and
no.
And it happened to not be her. But then at the same time, both their dates like showed up. And then the girl that was with the dude was like pretty cute and sweet and timid like him. I was like, this is perfect. Let's put you in the quiet corner over here.
Right.
But the whole time, I was so convinced that they were just blissfully just sitting there waiting behind this wall, not even knowing each other were there. But
did their separate dates seem to go okay?
Yeah, okay. I think the girl that was down there, I think she knew the person. The other one looked like it was pretty new, and they both kind of, at first, and then, and then they kind of loosened up and had a couple drinks and they're having fun. I was like, I like to see the transition of that too.
Right.
Or the people that just get off work.
Right.
And they're just like, oh, just like a Jack and Coke. And then like 2 Jack and Cokes later, they're like, yeah, I'll do another one, man. And they're like smiling. I was like, good for you, man. You're not at the office anymore.
This is working. Now, on that tip, are the young people, yourself included, are the young people drinking? The numbers say they're not drinking as much as they used to.
That is funny. I've also like seen that. And, to be honest, I see it both ways. I do have a lot of people coming in getting NA beers, believe it or not.
Right.
And then a lot of people just getting like waters or sodas.
Right.
but they're there for a while. Like, I have a bunch of regulars that don't drink that hang out for like 2 hours and just hang out and
Right.
watch sports or hockey or, you know, TV and then leave and have like a burger. But there's a lot, yeah. In like the millennials, I it it's kind of 50-50 because most people don't really. The cool thing is I see both ways because we do have food, which is like our main thing kind of, but we are a full bar. So
Right.
some people come to drink, some people come to eat, and some people come to do both. But people my age, I feel like are drinking less. I think it's more like not my age, like younger.
Yeah.
I think this is more like Gen Z are drinking less, like the kids. They'll come in, they're like, no, I'm good. And I'm like, but you're so cool looking. And good for you. You don't need
Well, the
to
Gen
drink.
Z have grown up in an era, especially in California and some states where they've had access to the sticky icky, the devil's lettuce, the jazz cabbage, and so
they're California sober,
which is better, in my opinion. As I get older, like I really, for me, if I'm going to drink after about 7 p.m., I am counting on a bad night's sleep, like, even if it's just a couple drinks. Like, because I've never really liked to get drunk because I feel terrible the next day, and I value my sleep so much. So drinking is a very social thing for me. I might go weeks without it, but the THC, I feel much better on that than I do on alcohol. But it sounds like the Gen Zs and Alphas are drinking way less. Like, for better or worse.
Yes, I agree with that. It is weird though, because I don't hang out with them, so I don't know.
Right.
But the ones that come in, I guess, now that you mention it, don't drink as much. But yeah, that is weird.
I wonder
have seen that.
If people just think it's, realize it's cheaper just to buy a bottle, mix it up at home, that money playing a part of that.
We pregame a little bit at home.
Yeah. I tell people that sometimes. I'm like, are you like, someone who's there, obviously not having a good time. And I'm like, you're not talking to anyone. You're not doing anything. Why don't you just do this at home?
Yeah.
I mean, no offense. You can be here. I'll take your money all day, but dog,
this is not efficient.
Yeah.
30-pack of PBRs, $18 or something like that.
Exactly.
Well, give us some bartenders. Give us some bartender stories. The wild stuff. Well,
so, this is one of my all-time favorite stories.
Nice.
So this was like Halloween weekend. This was when we were just, Vince, I know you've been there. You sat at the bar. So it used to be just that shotgun style bar.
Right.
From like the door to the back. And the sides weren't open. So it was just small bar. So we didn't have a lot of room and it was pretty busy. And we had this rule, which is crazy. It's not crazy, but it's crazy that it has to be a rule. When people order to go, they have to take it to go. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sort of thing. Just because that's like cutting the line. When someone's, if I have the whole place just packed full, I'm like, I literally have nowhere for you to sit. So I can, you wait for a table when you go to a restaurant, don't you?
Right.
Okay. I get it that it's like bar service, whatever, but there's nowhere to sit and I can't put plates on the ground. You know what I mean? So we often, when we were small, this doesn't happen much anymore because we have way more seating. We would have to be like, okay, well, I can do something to go unless you want to wait for a table to open up.
Right.
And then people will be like, okay, I'll do it to go. And so this group of like probably 8 or 9 people, which was big when it was a smaller place. Again,
that's big anywhere.
Weekend. Yeah, exactly. It was a pretty big group and they were all together. And so they all agreed. They're like, okay, yeah, we'll do it to go. And then this table opened up. This was one of those guys that immediately I was like, this guy's going to be a problem.
Right.
So a few of them already ordered, including this gentleman I'm going to tell you about. Then a small table opened up, but I already had a couple that was waiting for that table.
Right.
So the guy went and he sat down at that table and was like, this is my table. And the couple walked up, or they came up to me and they're like, yeah, I thought we were going to, I was like, oh yes, that is your table. Hold on. So I walked around the bar and I went to him. I was like, hey, bud, these young folks were waiting for that table. If you want to get up, you can get you already ordered your thing to go, but we'll see. And then he's all just 0 to 60. He's like, this fucking table, I just sat down, just getting, ooh. And I was like, all right, this is going to be fun. I was like, yeah, man, I told them they were next. They ordered before you. That's their table because they ordered it for here. You ordered it to go. And I also told you if you order it to go, you have to take it to go. So you don't need a table. And then his wife's like, are you fucking serious? And I was like, yes, I'm serious. And then I went back around. They got up from the table and the poor couple like sat down like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to stir shit up. And I'm like, felt bad for them because I'm like, it's not your fault. This guy's just being an asshole. And so I went back to take more orders because I was in the middle of that. And then some people they were with, like the end of their group, I was just about to take their order. They were the next ones. And right as I took their order, they were very nice. They were very sweet.
Yeah.
They're like, cool, thank you. And then like left the tip right there. And the guy walks up, the asshole guy walks up and he's like, no. And he's like, don't waste your money here, and grabs the tip. And I grabbed his arm. I was like, that is my money now. That is not your money or their money. They gave it to me as a tip. And I took it out of his hand. And then he's like, fuck that. None of us are going here. I was like, all right, cancel this guy's thing. And I was like, well, you can leave. And then the wife comes up and she's like, what? I was like, you can also leave. Get the fuck out of my bar is pretty much what I said. And they're like, okay. Yeah. And then just like, they got out. And before they left, this is the point of the story. I was wearing a strawberry costume. And he's like, well, I don't want your
relevant information.
And so I know. That's why I brought up the Halloween weekend. So I was wearing a strawberry and I was being dead serious with this guy with the little things off in a big, like pretty much a throw over strawberry thing. And I'm just arguing with this guy and he's like, you know what? I don't want your food, you fucking strawberry. And like throws the money back on the table and just leaves. How do you
yell at a strawberry?
Also, I don't know, man. And everyone else was like, sorry, that guy's an asshole. And I like your strawberry costume. I was like, thank you. And then the guy sitting at the bar was like, did you just do all of that wearing a strawberry costume? I was like,
that's elite.
I didn't even think about it. The toughest strawberry around.
I wanted to have seen that moment when you grabbed his arm and looked at him and said, that's my money with the strawberry.
Yeah. This guy was a big guy too, but whatever.
Did he have anything on? Was he dressed as like?
No, he had like a couple of them were like this one girl was like, believe it or not, a nurse.
Sexy nurse.
Sexy nurse.
Oh boy.
And then they were like probably, I'd say, Vince, they were probably your age.
Okay.
If that's around your age.
28.
Too,
yeah, 28.
28, 29, you're around there. Yeah. But it was just funny being called a fucking strawberry.
That's amazing.
It's like as if I didn't know I was wearing that. And he had nothing else to say.
Does it work to like, I've never been in that situation where I've had to like deal with a bad customer, my short time in retail. But, when they're with a bigger party, is it better to like go to somebody else versus the main perpetrator? Be like, hey, take care of your boy. Like,
so I will start there.
Yeah.
If I'll be like, hey, is he good? Kind of ask.
Yeah.
And most of the time, there's I always pick someone who I'm like, all right, this person definitely has their shit together a little more than everyone else, and is probably the babysitter.
Yeah.
Because we're not always the first stop,
Yeah.
But I'll usually go to them and be like, hey, is your boy good? And almost every single time, they have a touch of like embarrassment back there. So they're always immediately like, oh yeah, don't worry. He's not going to drink anymore. She's not, they're done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, I'm holding you to that. And I'll tell them. And then they really feel like they have to,
keep them in check.
So it is good to go to someone first sometimes.
Right.
Unless it's just egregious. Like this guy went around back or went to this area downstairs and just started peeing inside.
Oh boy.
It's like, it's stuff like that where, or if someone brings their own alcohol in, I'm like, nope, get out of here, because it's like a big no-no.
I feel like the peeing is a call the police situation.
Yeah, well, I got the guy out. I literally just grabbed him and dragged him out.
Were you
It was
dressed
like
as a strawberry for the pee?
no,
No.
I was a bundle of grapes. No,
Fruit of the loom.
that was yeah. No, I was just trying to see how to navigate through people and not get like pee on my leg, you know.
Right.
But no, I wasn't dressed as anything. I actually wasn't even wearing clothes, I don't think.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk music, bar music. So just to set the scene for everybody. Like the Balboa it's a pretty, like, I would say, standard bar. You know, it's not like it's
like
not
you guys were talking about.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a dive bar, and it's not like the quiet, you know, speakeasy with,
it has
$28 without tenant. You know, it's in there. We're like in fairly good liquor selection, not super, you know, tap heavy, just a you know, just a solid bar.
Kind of
good
a little bit
good
of
neighborhood
everything.
bar. Yeah, and so just set the tone there. What's the music? You know, what's like, you know, what's the good stuff?
Is
what's
it
the
customer
annoying stuff?
driven? Like, do you have a thing, an app?
So typically we have, I don't even know if this is, whatever, it's probably legal. Anyway, we have Spotify just on an iPad.
Right.
So we just play Spotify, and we have this huge, my buddy and I curated this huge playlist just that's longer than anyone's shift. So it's great.
Well,
There's kind of a bunch of everything.
They'll get audited every once in a while. You'll just get billed every once in a while. Like an auditor will literally walk in the bar.
Yeah.
And listen and then get a sense, okay, this is how much they owe the licensing company that distributes. Yeah. So.
We also have an AMI jukebox, so that's like the internet one. So every once in a while, we'll get people that, I don't know, a lot of times people don't even touch it, but you know, on weekend nights, someone will be like, all right, I'm going to do this. And I have the remote. I can skip it if I want to. I typically don't like to do that. Some others that will remain nameless. They skip anything if they don't want to hear it, which is kind of rude. They're there paying my rent, you know? But I'd say there's a big, depending on who's working.
Right.
It's actually drastic between different bartenders. Now that I think about it, because there's the guy who just plays, you look at him, you'd never think this. There's a guy who just plays either white boy reggae or country.
Like and then Bob Marley is white boy reggae, or like
white boy reggae,
Alborosie,
like Pepper Revolution, or you know, all those, I don't know, those Southern California like OB bands.
Right.
Anyway, so he plays all that stuff, and then someone else plays like kind of stonery doom metal and like Red Fang and just all these, which is cool. I like most of these things. And then me and my buddy usually play kind of a mix of everything. There's like a bunch of Britpop. There's a bunch of just old punk. There's, you know, nostalgic, like pop punk, early 2000s or like 90s alternative, a bunch of Third Eye Blind, and, you know, really just anything you could think of that you can hear without it just being, you know, it's just like, it's not intrusive. It's kind of like classic rock. If you hear that anywhere, you're like, I don't care. I know this song.
We make fun of the classic rock all the time because it's the most unoffensive music.
Yes.
When you're at like an event.
That's my point.
When you're at like an event, you know, and people want to just play just the most creatively bankrupt, unoffensive music, it almost always ends up being classic rock, and they might throw in like a Run DMC hip hop song or what's
just to be fun.
Right. Like, just mix it up a little. But what are you listening to lately, Kev? What's your earworm lately? What are you spinning when it's you're picking it?
Dude, I have so many, you know, I love so many different genres and so much. But
as do we.
I just cannot stop listening to Gojira lately.
What is that? Sounds like metal. That has a metal name.
It is metal. Yeah. They're French.
Oh,
So yeah,
is
they're
that the
French.
band that played at the
Yes.
Olympic ceremony? Okay.
Yes.
Oh wow.
So when
Okay.
I saw that
How do I spell that? I
headline,
need to add it to the show
it's
notes.
Gojira.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Gojira.
they went
So
hard at the Olympic ceremony.
when I saw that headline, it's like Gojira to play I thought it was like satire. I was like, there's no way. And then sure enough, I saw the ceremony. I was like, no shit, they really
Dude, that was
did.
the greatest opening ceremony ever.
Dude, it was fabulous. Anyway, so they've been flooding me. Also I'm an Apple Music guy. Sorry, I'm not a Spotify guy.
It's
But
okay. It's all the
I
same.
know. But a lot of that, and I just get on these hip hop kicks, man. Always.
What's the hip hop? Anything new? Because I'm always looking for the new hip hop.
No,
Plenty of old stuff. But
Molly, my wife, she loves shit. What are they called? They're like the new Beastie Boys, pretty much.
I know who you're
Joey
talking
Valance
about.
and Bray or something.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, but I've only like heard it once. And I'm like, that sounds like the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, she likes them. They're like newer. I know this isn't like new, but Run the Jewels is always great, you know?
I love Run the Jewels.
Yeah, Run the Jewels rule. Oh, speaking of which, we got tickets for San Diego for Wu-Tang and Run the Jewels in
Oh man, that's awesome.
June or July.
It's
Yeah, at
on
Sports
my
Arena.
list.
It's gonna be dope.
Right.
But yeah, I'll just get random hip hop, you know, but listening to a lot of metal and just anything. I'm all over the place, man.
But I sense you like the harder music of the harder varieties from the metal,
I do.
hip hop. Yeah, you like Run the Jewels, Wu-Tang.
I like a lot of hardcore.
They're the metal of hip hop.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been on a Liquid Swords. Like I've been spinning that for like a month straight, like nonstop.
Did you see that Hulu series?
No.
It's a drama.
Oh yeah, I saw commercials for it, but I never went and saw it.
Yeah, it's called Wu-Tang: An American Saga.
Yeah.
And there's 3 seasons of it. It's good, man.
Is it like a dramatic reenactment or is it documentary?
It's
okay.
It's a reenactment. And so there's like actors and some of the casting is just like, that is ODB.
That's cool.
You know what I mean?
Is it good? Have you found yourself watching all of it, binging it?
Yeah. I watched it all and I binged the hell out of it. I was like, all right, this is pretty sick. Cause it goes through, cause I know so much about Wu-Tang and all the lyrics and their story and where they came from, where this guy's from, Method Man, you know what I mean? Yeah. I know all of that and it's just so fun to see it in the story. You feel like, you're like, oh, that's the MPV they were talking about in that song, you know, and there's a bunch of like lyrical shit they kind of bring up and you're like, oh, that was a little Easter egg because they say that in this song.
Right.
It's kind of cool though. It's a well-made show, and I think it's like directed by RZA, and some of them are written by different members. But it's good. Good show. Yeah. Wu-Tang: An American Saga.
Big fan. No, I dig it.
Hulu original.
And then, okay, so it's time to close the bar. You got to turn the lights on. People are still there. How do you chase the people out? What's the song?
So, I always. If we close at 10, last call is 9:30, which a lot of days we do. We don't, you know. And then if we close at 1 on Sundays, 12:30 is last call. So I start by, I just pause the music or wait till the song's over. Then I pause it and I straight up yell. I'll tell people like right in front of me, I'm like, hey, don't be alarmed. I'm going to yell right now. And I'll do my whole, all right, guys, last call. I was like, food is completely done. If you want to get another drink or to close out, come up and see me. Other than that, last call. And I was like, trust me. I pretty much always say, trust me, you will know when I want you out of here. Because I give them, you know, they got a half hour to finish their stuff. Some people like just got their food.
Right.
So, you know, and then turn the music back on and then everyone, you know, the pianist keeps playing like in the when the doors open he stops, record scratch. But I don't know, people are pretty good about it, but sometimes, you know, I'll turn on the lights after a few minutes after I call last call, usually 10 minutes after. I'll turn the lights up And then people are just like, okay, but some people, man, I cannot, they're just, the awareness is non-existent. Like everyone around them just leaving, going away, doing their thing. And they're just like, yeah. And they've taken 2 sips off their beer. I'm like, bro, you've been here 25 minutes and you have taken 2 sips of your beer. And I was like, you gotta go. But, people are honestly like, almost with everything, people are pretty cool, but I don't play a particular song, but when there's people in there, like more than I want to be in there,
Yeah.
I'll start to gently turn the music down and, gradually, and then people will notice, oh, I don't have to yell as loud as I did before.
Yeah.
And then I'll just turn it off and then I'll just be like, I'll give them a 10-minute, I'll give them a 5-minute warning. Just be like, all right, guys, drink them up. I got to go back to my dogs.
You got bright lights?
Dogs.
Yeah.
What?
You got some bright lights you can just like
Flicker
Not
around.
really, but,
Man, you would
if I
drive
mention my dogs.
You would drive
What?
me out of there so fast if you struck up closing time. I'd be
I
like,
know.
I'm out. Here's my money. Keep the change. I'm out of here, man.
I used to work at Qualcomm at Jack at the Murph.
Yeah, at the Murph.
And they played that on the organ when everybody's leaving every game at the Padres games. I used to be the guy that walked around the stands with all the souvenirs and sold them when I was in college. And, it was a good gig. And closing time, the organ. So that was always okay. That was my time to go out to the rail station and sell more stuff to people on their way out. Well,
oh yeah, that's a good indicator. You're like, oh, it is that time.
Yeah,
Let's
no,
go.
and I knew when Trevor Hoffman was coming out because he had his song. He played Hell's Bells every time. I'm like, okay, it's getting close to the end of the game. Trevor's going out. He's our closer, and so you kind of I love it.
It's funny. Sometimes I'll do, I'll turn it down, and then sometimes I'll just be like, you know what, I'm just gonna play some grindcore or black metal right now, and really loud. And some people are like, oh, they'll have the nerve. We close in like 5 minutes, and people are like, can you turn this down? I'm like, nope, I'm good. And then I just turn my back to them, and they're like, oh, well, then we're leaving. I'm like, perfect.
That was the point.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna text you some new music, Kev, because I always like turn people on to something interesting.
I'm so bad at new music, dude.
Right.
So
that's why we did this, because we're trying to discover new stuff. So I'm sending you a link to the band Panchiko, which was they have a new album out this week or last week. They have an amazing story that we've talked about earlier on the podcast, and it's shoegaze music. I sent you their EP, which is kind of quiet.
Their EP.
EP. Think of it's called death metal, but it's not death metal. It's shoegaze music, and it's very noodly and spacey. It's kind of like some of your quieter early Radiohead or old school, really old Pink Floyd from like the Syd Barrett days.
What era are they? Are they like newer?
That's what's funny. This album,
are they Zoomers?
These songs they made in '97 or 2000.
Oh shit!
And then they went and got careers. They were done with music. And then their music an old record was found at like a Goodwill in 2016. And someone, this is dope. And they put it online, and it took them better part of 4 years to find the band. And now they're back, and they put out a new album. So it's a cool
quite
story.
The story.
Super
That's way cool.
And it's really a really interesting music. I dig it. But if I was going to chase people out of the bar, I would play Black MIDI. Because it is so disorienting, even more than like black metal, because it's like
is that like the electronic sort of like
it is indescribable, the genre.
Yeah,
it's indescribable. It's like
hard to
it's
grasp.
Metal plus like almost like jam band, but then it goes into like big band era, like Glenn Campbell, like almost
you're
crooner
describing
singing,
like a fever dream.
It is. Yeah. It is. But it's when you sit down and listen to it, it makes me smile, because every change, like, they're going through this bar, this measure, every change is so different and so surprising and unexpected that you laugh. You're like, it's super hard to listen to, but like it would make everybody in the room stop talking and be like, what?
How does one get into that?
I don't. My son turned me on to it. He's into all the weird stuff, and so which is how I found Panchiko. So having teenagers helps you find music, and Black MIDI. He's got his own solo album out now, John. But
That's the artist name.
The Black MIDI is the most interesting thing I've heard in music in years.
It reminded me a little bit of Mr. Bongo the first time I heard it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's even got that West Coast, that kind of suicidal tendencies, Mr. Bungle,
I can't
infectious grooves vibe.
I'm like really trying to put it together.
You can't. It's
I can't hear it unless I hear
very
it.
abstract.
I'm gonna send you an Apple Music link to Black MIDI too.
That could be great music to run people out.
Okay, I'm gonna try that one out.
It would make people just watch them. I would assume they were gonna get physically uncomfortable, like they wouldn't know what to do.
I already love that.
Bizarre. Like it's intriguing. I've tried. I want to like it, but I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But I can't not. I can't say I don't like it. Like I've been messing with it for a year. And it's like, this is so. I play it for people just to surprise them. Like you've never heard anything like this, and the musicianship is elite. Like it's really freaking good. Like they'll go to 16ths like drum, guitar like, and then it'll just slow down. Then it'll slow down into like a jazz swing movement. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. So disoriented.
I'm definitely going to try. So I work tonight. Maybe I'll try that. Oh, no, not there. It closed. Sorry. Or I'll just put it on anyway in the middle of a dinner rush, see what happens.
Panchiko is the ambient. Like that's worth a play.
I'm done with that one.
So I sent you that. And then Black MIDI, you just need to listen to that today. It just because it is so.
I will.
It's delightful because it's so different and there's no way to understand it. And that's why I love it.
There's no rules, dude.
Right. So there you go. Kevin, thanks for being on the pod, man.
Yeah, dude.
We'll have to have you back. So,
yeah, we'll do it.
Because we didn't even get into the movies yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll get more into a little more music and get into like some movies. We talked about the Wu-Tang show a little, but
yeah.
Sweet.
That'd be
check
awesome.
that out.
It's good to meet you, man.
I'd like to get to the Wu-Tang.
Yeah, you too.
So there you go.
But yeah, we'll talk soon.
I'll send you a prof link too. I'll send you one more link. So you got shoegaze, you got Black MIDI, whatever that is. I'm gonna send you prof.
Yeah, whatever that is.
He's my favorite rap discovery of the last year.
He's okay. I'm glad you introduced me to him for sure.
I don't see much. All the new music I find is not rap or hip hop. It's always some like 20-year-olds.
Because the rap is really hard to find, the good stuff, especially if you like what we like. If you like Run the Jewels, Wu-Tang, the prof is different. He raps hard, but he also brings in just this
super clever,
fun kind of ridiculousness. Not like Lil Dicky, where it's just all kind of mostly all humor, but almost Lil Dicky. Like so, it's he's got street cred because he's been doing this for years and can rap hard. But he also seems to be having more fun and is working harder than anybody I've seen since Wu-Tang.
Yeah, I have gone back and listened to him so many times since you introduced me to him. Like he's
definitely Prof.
PROF. He's a white dude from Minneapolis.
And his videos are awesome. I love artists that care about their music videos still. And his music videos are great.
Yes.
They go hand in hand.
His last two albums are just front to back, just bangers, absolute bangers, and it's all over the freaking place. I don't even know where to start with Prof. So I'm going to send you a link to his most recent album called Horse. Got a Redman's on there. He has lot.
So he's got some of the homies on there. That's cool.
Yeah, no, he's got a lot of singles. He's playing Red Rocks in a few weeks. JPEG Mafia, the Mexican OT. And Norman Sano opening for him, so he's in there, like the people know, but like he's fully independent, and he's just so. I love good lyricists. If you like the Woo, you good. You love lyricism, and that's what he's best at. And the way his flow, it's like the first. Oh gosh, So I'm going to send you a song, and I'm going to send you an album. So I'm going to send you Horse. And I'm going to send you the if you're going to understand Prof, you have to listen to a song called Squad Goals. That's the last thing I'm going to send you. So it's going to be the first thing in your text message. That song perfectly exemplifies what he does. In the first measure, before he gets to the chorus, he's going to flow change like 5 times, like Eminem level lyricist. Yeah. and it's hard and it's funny and it's freaking witty. It's amazing. So
You know what really does it for does he have good beats?
it's incredible. That song.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're gonna love
Yeah.
it. The hook is just stupid. So Squad
All right.
Goals, listen to that. If you like that, then go try the other stuff. But that song is
Well, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what I like. I have to try Black MIDI.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's in there.
I'm still like so intrigued by that. So
Yeah. So
Wild
there you got some homework to kind of put the headphones on here while you
all right.
take the dog for a walk. But man, love having you on here. Yeah, movies next
Hell
time.
yeah.
I'll have to get you back in a month or two.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm
Awesome.
always ready.
We'll stay gold, homie.
If it's not too old or too early, us bartenders. But yes,